Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating intersection between physical biomechanics and abstract systems theory. We're going to examine how a monumental physical achievement in figure skating maps directly onto the universal principles of system reliability, and we'll be approaching this through a precise, scientific lens. Because when you strip away the spectacle, we can truly understand the underlying mechanics of control. Let's ground this right away in a specific measurable event. On September 14, 2022, Ilia Malinin became the first skater to land a quadruple axel in public competition. Now, from the outside looking in, this might appear to be an act of spontaneous magic, but it's actually a highly observable, meticulously engineered physical reality. It's a system, and like any system, it can be deconstructed and understood. To really grasp this achievement, we have to look at the strict mechanical reality of the jump itself. You see, the axel is unique among jumps. It distinctly requires the skater to take off moving forward, but land moving backward. Because of that specific orientation, a quadruple axel actually demands exactly 4.5 full rotations in midair. When we break down this complex movement, we shouldn't just view it as a single explosive miracle. Instead, think of it as an interdependent four-part system. It begins with the approach, moves into the critical takeoff, transitions into flight and rotation, and finally concludes with the landing. Every single phase has to connect flawlessly to the next to maintain structural stability and successfully complete the element. If we look at this system in action, a 2025 kinematic study by researcher C.G. Hirasawa observed two world-class skaters attempting the quadruple axel in competition. The tracking data showed something really interesting. Both skaters produced greater vertical heights in their quadruple axel attempts than they did in their own triple axel attempts. Ultimately, one of those attempts was successful while the other was downgraded. But we do need to be careful with our scientific conclusions here. Because this kinematic study examined only two skaters, the findings are inherently limited in their scope. We have to clarify that a small sample size like this simply cannot prove that an increased vertical height is a universal requirement for all skaters attempting the jump. So instead of just focusing on isolated successful events, let's pivot to the concept of reliability across repeated, comparable attempts. To measure this, we can rely on a conceptual framework that tracks several candidate variables for stability. We're talking about things like center of mass alignment, body configuration and moment of inertia, rotational axis stability, and landing displacement. It is absolutely critical to note here that these are just conceptual variables for a broader measurement framework. They are not the reported measurements of Malinin himself. So how exactly does a physical system achieve stability across all these variables? Well, the answer is deliberate practice. Practice essentially functions as a systematic feedback loop. It creates repeated opportunities for the skater to observe, adjust, and refine variation. The entire goal is to systematically reduce disruptive variation while still preserving a skater's meaningful expression and their ability to adapt to the ice. What's amazing is that this framework of control expands perfectly to the cognitive macro level, introducing a concept known as authentic controllability. This is defined by a philosophical balance in adaptive reliability. Adaptive reliability is stable enough to continue and flexible enough to respond to meaningful variation. It's really about building a structure that resists collapse but remains entirely open to intentional input. We can actually connect this physical performance system straight to modern human-AI collaboration. Think of artificial intelligence as a tool that externalizes and organizes ideas. It builds the structural framework and manages the baseline mechanics. However, true authentic controllability requires that the human operator strictly retains control over meaning, correction, judgment, and direction. The human provides the intentionality, just like the skater provides the artistry within the strict physics of the jump. Ultimately, whether you are managing the complex biomechanics of a jump on the ice or navigating complex cognitive tasks in a digital environment, the underlying principle remains exactly the same. So what is the true nature of mastery in any complex system? Reliability is not the absence of variation. Reliability is the control of meaningful variation.